Near and dear to Pelican, because we've struggled with it, and we are still struggling with it.
And can't tell us your name.
Oh, Bob Geppert from Pelican Preserve. I don't know if I'm on or not. Do you separate and differentiate between cleaning and inspection? I guess that's a question. We did not at first, and that was to our peril. I have no idea what you guys are doing.
And just,
The inspection is relatively cheap.
What are you talking about, Bob? Sewers or flowway?
Pipe, I'm not talking pipes, stormwater pipes.
We're totally relying on the 2013, 2014 flows that Morris Riley did, videos, to do all the work that we're doing. We
Okay.
haven't had, and Irma has occurred since, we have no idea what we're running into other than the big 60-inch pipe over there along the golf course. We've got one hell of a lot of sand in
Okay.
it.
I'll just share what we did, do with it what you want. Once we cleaned them in 12-13, and we checked the 30% random sample, I'm talking pipes, nothing else, they were still clean 5 years later. So that had us change from cleaning pipes to looking at catch basins, and that's what we're now doing. So we inspected catch basins, we know the size, the depth, and how much was in there. We've divided Pelican into 5 zones, as Ed and I have discussed, so we can do this about every 5 years. And we have a contract for doing that right now. The one part that has eluded us is, once we get the reports for what's in the catch basin, we're not quite sure how to go about the cleaning of the catch basins. But it's so very important to keep inspection separate from the cleaning. And when you're saying cleaning, define whether you're cleaning pipes or catch basins. You're wasting money cleaning pipes if you keep your catch basins clean.
We've been doing, correct me if I'm wrong, but our policy has been, when we go in to clean the pipes that we're showing to be 30-40% or greater plugged, we are cleaning the associated catch basins at both ends of that pipe.
Right, that just makes
But that
sense, right.
doesn't mean that if you've got 10 other manhole-to-manhole reaches up the line that are less than 30%, every one of those catch basins could be full and we don't know it.
right.
Well, because
That's the problem.
Well, we clean every catch basin. We have
We-
415, I think, or 412.
We don't have anywhere near the budget to do that with the massive number of catch basins we've got.
Well, the one thing we learned, I guess that's the biggest thing I want to share to you, is when you're paying somebody to clean and inspect, they got to protect themselves, and that's a big number. When we paid them just to inspect, that was a much more reasonable cost. And then we, the Ponds Committee, chose, and it was varying, some of them we did at 15% clog, some we did at 30. Anything that got 50% or greater, we automatically clean. But we're finding that once you get your handle on the whole thing, it's really not as big a problem as you, but to write a contract that says that has proved very elusive to us.
But what we should have been doing is doing 10% of the catch basins a year over the last 20, 30 years, and we wouldn't have this problem. But now, we haven't had any of them cleaned.
No, I'm just trying to.
It's a nightmare.
The kind of things that we went through, and now we are anyway into a good routine that we feel pretty confident about. So it's a lot, it's not easy, it's like holding jello, so.
We've got several that just walking down our street, what scares me is there's odors coming out of them that are very much like a sanitary sewer. And what I think it is it's the organics that have been in those sewers for years and years and years.
Well, some of our residents are now becoming sensitive to other people leaving things in our sewers, and we recovered some money from out at Prado. Did we get that back yet?
Yes, sir.
And we're also going to be getting money for things that happened in Palazzo and Casella, because contractors are putting stuff in the sewer. We're going after them. We're trying to get our money back. So when your residents become tuned into this,
We're a little Johnny-come-lately over here.
we got old people with nothing better to do.
Thank you, Bob. So, do you think we can get both of those done concurrently?
Yes, I think we'll have the carry forward number on the 7th, and the next meeting we'll have the bids for you, so.
You probably have different contractors.
Well,
A different group of people will be doing that flowway work.
I met with a new group yesterday, and they are doing storm drains on top of utility, and I told them I'd let them give us a price, but they've created a big filter. So they're basically washing that through, collecting all the dirt.
On site.
Putting the water right back in, and then taking it, just dumping the solids, so it says it really
That's
helps their production
makes a lot.
and their costs.
That's a lot.
Metower just is spending an ungodly amount of time just carrying water over here and dumping it, and it's got debris in it, but there's an awful lot of water.
Yeah, extreme jerry-rigged the filter system.
Yeah,
When
that
they
was.
did ours.
Yeah, they did a good one too.
So we'll
Sounds
be
like
getting
a penny for gold.
Trouble is, there's no gold.
There's no telling what they might find.
More likely bodies.
Some of the ones we've been getting, it's unbelievable. The sand almost looks like you went over to Home Depot and got that, what they call the clay sand. It's that clean.
Well, we got complete sandbags out of our
Just-
pipes.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can
sandbags.
easily do
Yeah.
that. It's just clean white sand, and it's coming out of the ponds
Ours was in a bag.
during heavy rains.
Still the bag.
So,
Mess.
did you have anything else on that, Chris?
No, I think we'll just move forward and then we'll get the carrier number for you and look at allocating the money from the bid as a priority from the carryover, and then you'll have the other remaining funds in the carryover to deal with.
Okay.
Margaret, another one for Chris, though, that's along that line. Right now, we've got a problem with these water levels. They are very, very, very high. We're, as of this morning, I went out and checked, we're still overflowing both at Weir 4 and Weir 5. And I know they are down at Pelican at Weir 2. Should we be considering going to South Florida and asking them for permission to lower the two weirs, open them up?
I certainly could ask them.
We've got to get 124 Basin 4 down. Abby's doing that work, and was out there yesterday, and we're about an inch above control. I don't know how on earth they are going to do that job underwater.
Yeah, well, we talked about dewatering the plugs to do and then bringing in a pump to move the water over the weir to dewater.
But if we
that
just
segment.
open those gates and lower that down 6 to 18 inches, 18 preferably, that would help us a lot on building that project.
I'll make an appointment to
See if South Florida will let us do it. If they know why we're doing it, just to get this construction done, and typically the water levels are way down at this time of the year.
In fact, we have those water level monitors, we can monitor it downstream, so we tell them we're gonna open it up, and I can say, here's the level, they might say, well, you can open up till the level reaches this point, and we can actually give them that data now.
Well, that's right, we can sit there and monitor that we're at 3, and we know how many CFS it is allowable to have, we can take it right to that.
Right. I will meet with them and be back to you, see what we can do.
The other advantage of doing it is doing it now, so that come June, we start getting rains, Bill, you down there on your end at number 2, and when Bob left, that south or that west end of Pelican, that area's fragile. I mean, you've got no room for a hiccup down there. That water level is so tight on that weir. Get that water out of there before we have to get rid of it.
Do I need to start yelling to somebody about that? Or did I
I think he
make my
just heard
point
it.
last week?
We
I
gotta
think
get
you
that
made
water
your point
level.
last week, I think it was heard. I think there's been some action taken
Good.
already.
Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, we don't.
Wow.
Let's keep rolling.
Gee, whew. How did that happen? Okay, consent agenda, revised contract spreadsheet.
And we had a couple highlights here, and that was with our legal services contract and our contract with Infomark. Tony reviewed the contract with Infomark, and it's basically the same scope of work, almost the same money, just a very slight increase, and we'll be bringing that back to the March 7th meeting. And I also just informally talked to some of the board members about bringing in, going out to RFQ for professional services for legal. And the general consensus was just to extend the existing contract, that there wasn't a big outpouring of interest to have other candidates come in to provide legal services for the district. So I asked Tony if he would just bring a contract extension to the March 7th meeting along with the Infomark extension.
I was opposed to it.
Don't we already have an extension agreement from Infomark? Did we have that last meeting?
Oh yeah, we have it. I'm just gonna bring it for formal approval. Tony had a few minor comments on it.
And I'll add just one thing to the Infomark. I think we should really put in the language some tasks to drive some efficiencies and streamline our processes now that we have migrate away from a management company. We're building internal capability. I think we should put in the language of the contract, just some language or something around, and I don't have any specifics, Tony, but, I think Mike could probably add some color after this, just around, streamlining our processes and, looking for ways that we can, and it's not necessarily cost related on their side. I'm not looking to reduce their contract costs per se, but more around on our side. How do we become more efficient as a staff? How do we build some internal capabilities? So that's just something I thought I would just throw out there as part of that.
Well, one of them on that line is this deal with the minutes of meetings.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
We should have the minutes of the meeting ready by the next meeting,
I agree.
period.
Well, I'm even talking specifically about even how, just around our payment routines, transparency to being able to, cut certain, checks or whatever. Just, I think there's some ways we can streamline that process, still have Infomark as a core function, but also put us in a position where we have a little more control over some, and we don't need to speak to it, but I think you probably understand what I'm
Is there a
talking
flow
about.
process, Michael, that you have, that you could graphically indicate or depict, so we could incorporate that, saying this would be the flow?
We don't have a formal flow process chart to do with them.
Is there a chart that you could think of, and so we can incorporate that?
We should probably work on putting something.
Could.
That's not, I think that might be a good idea, because what we could do is, you have the base, I'll call it the main agreement, and it's just sort of boilerplate. It repeats the same from year after year as to what the main criteria, then attached are the tasks that Infomark is supposed to perform. And I think that what we could do is, as an appendix, an addendum to that task, to say, this is the flow process, flow chart, the flow of work to accomplish what's in the prior document. I mean, if we could,
Yeah.
if it's a board's wish, we could work with Chris and, Doug and Mike between now and the next meeting.
Yeah,
So
I
by
would,
Tuesday,
I could
we
have,
get a draft.
I can help sit down, we could diagram this whole thing out, we have a process
If we got it by
flow
Tues-
with system interactions.
You gotta
and-
volunteer for something and have it by Tuesday next week.
Next Tuesday, next week? Well,
Michael
we'll
could do it.
discuss it.
If that's the board, if the board can give that direction, then Michael can maybe create it and then circulate it to Doug and to myself, and we can incorporate that in.
I agree with Doug. There needs to be some accountability on some of this stuff. This is ridiculous.
I think that's
In the
fine.
minutes, and then we can put that in there too, but
Yeah.
at least, I think, I'm not an Infomark proponent or defender. If the meetings end on a Thursday, for them to be able to make the next board meeting, they would have to have the draft ready by the following Tuesday.
Right.
So I think at least 2 meetings,
Yeah.
it could be.
Tuesday, by Tuesday, you can do minutes by Tuesday.
It's not always, well, I mean, it does take them
They
time.
don't just work
And,
for us, though.
sometimes we go back to them with revisions, but it's also sometimes our equipment and stuff it's not always just been.
Well,
on
let's
that.
identify where the defects or where the areas of opportunities are.
Yeah,
And we
and-
can and when you identify those, you can determine if it's technology, is it resources, is it the fact that they've got, multiple other accounts and it's just not doable, because we stipulate the contract terms and
Or
the
because
vendor
we just have
accepts.
never said anything.
Or we compromise,
Yeah.
so
Well, it is.
I'm just saying, let's go into this
Right.
negotiating with an open mind and identify where we have opportunities, and then we can determine what's doable and what's not.
Yeah.
There's another issue with the Infomark too, and we talked to Russ Wire. We're switching over, assuming that we follow pretty much what he's gonna be recommending. We're gonna be making a major change in our assessment methodology. He's gonna be bringing it out, but they implement it. We need to have Stephen talking to Russ, at least to the point right now, that I can hear him come right back, wait a minute, this isn't what we agreed on. Because this system they're doing right now and have been doing is simple compared to what we're talking about changing it over. So I would suggest that we have Stephen make contact with Russ to get an idea of the flavor of their additional work requirements to implement, because we're gonna get hit with this thing in the next 90 days.
Yeah.
What I would suggest then, if the contract expires technically March 1st, is give at least a 1-month extension of that. But I don't like April Fool's extensions. Maybe it can take April 15th.
Whatever.
Yeah, to work on these issues that the board's raised, 10 minutes, the workflow, the assessment process.
Yeah, I don't want Steve coming back later that day, this, 90,000 or
That's
whatever your
okay.
contract is now,
Yeah.
180.
So if the
Make
board
sure
could,
we got that squared
what I
away.
might suggest is that the board today authorize the chair to sign a, 2-month contract extension under the current contract. Any members of the public want to speak on that?
Well, let me just add one thing
And,
before
that
we
way
go.
we can at least have the contract remain in place while we
Right,
finalize.
well,
And before we go, so there's two ways we can do this. One, we can incorporate in the statement of work, the assessment transition or implementation as
That'd be a
part,
good
as
idea.
part of the existing, or we could have an addendum or a separate, kind of statement of work as that's a project related to the formal contract. I don't know, probably the first would be ideal, is to incorporate it into the contract, but, because we will, that's gonna be significant work, so.
Although, the
Just-
way I understand it from Russ, once, as Russ explained it, once he sets up the spreadsheet.
Well, it's a first-time deal.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Russ would do the
One
first
time.
time,
One-time deal.
and so it's a plug factor after that, as I
Yeah,
understand, the way
yeah.
Russ explained it.
Yes.
But in that line, I would also think there is an opportunity, if there is any adjustments that we want to make to our structure, that we think about maybe doing at that time. And again, I don't have a specific example, but if we're looking
Might
at
be a
changing.
big bullet to bite.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there, if there is an opportunity, if you're going in and you're changing account infrastructure and GLs and all that stuff for the assessment methodology, if there is other improvements that we want to make, that might be the time to do it.
It's
And
a
that
it's a one-year
because
contract, right?
I think that would be something that would have to be worked out with Mr. Kraft.
Sure, yeah.
Because
Not
it's,
one year.
it's also putting
So we're
additional
floating.
burdens on him with no staff.
Yeah, well, because the reason why I say it might be cheaper for us to do assessment methodology and some other improvements at one time, as opposed to doing it, next year when we make changes, it would cost more.
If we do the 60-day extension of the contract, that should give
I would
you
do
time
60
to
days.
work
Yes.
with Mike and get those things itemized.
Yeah.
Just make sure that Steve and Russ are talking.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the public wish to speak to the contract extension with Infomark?
I think waiting 2 meetings for minutes is wrong. I think the minutes should be ready from one meeting to the next, so that the public will know what's going on, because by the time we would get it, after 2 meetings, you're well past a month, and then we're coming in talking about something that happened a month ago, and I think that's wrong. I think we should be able to see it within the next meeting time, so if there's any comments or something we want to address, we can do it immediately without having to wait a month, 6 weeks to get it.
That's my opinion.
For the record, that was Warren Davies from Stony Brook.
got
Anyone
that.
else?
Yeah, that's why I said it could be done by the Tuesday after the meeting.
It,
The
it,
minutes.
it
It
kind
better
of.
be up to them. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
they
we
may
don't
not
have
be
it to
able
them sometimes until Monday.
Yeah.
They don't have it near and here as we speak
It does-
live.
But it doesn't take long to type them up. I look at them, I know.
Right, but it's, sometimes they're 4-hour meetings and they only have 8 hours,
Not lately.
that's true, that's true.
Okay, will someone make a motion to the extension?
Authorize the chairman to sign a 60-day extension to the Infomark contract.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
And Madam Chairman, for the legal services contract, would that be a 3-year or 1-year extension?
3 months.
3 months, okay.
3 months.
Well, the 30 days, the 30-day go-away clause anyway, so.
Just keep it the way it's been.
Okay, 3 years is the last time.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well,
For the attorney
when we-
extension, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, when we did this the last time, we tried to have the expiration dates of the engineering services and the attorney at
Staggered. Mhm.
different years.
And they
That's
are,
correct.
Pardon?
and they are.
And that will still
Yeah,
be the
but
case,
we-
that would still be the case because Danny's expires
September.
September 2021. So that would be that would work.
Just out of curiosity, what's our termination clause?
I think 30 days or 60 days.
Is it termination for convenience?
Yes.
Yeah.
60 days, notice. It says right there in the.
60 days.
So we're talking about a 2-year renewal extension. whatever.
2 years, okay.
It's 1 year.
Pardon?
Well, if you're
There's
gonna,
1 year
if you're gonna
left.
overlap it with engineering, it would be 3.
Almost, it's 9/30/21.
Yeah.
Can we do 1 year?
It doesn't, you can look at it in the fact that you can do 1, 2, or 3 years, but you still have, it's still a 60-day
It's still
notice
60
to
day
it.
notice.
It's
Yeah,
more
but if you don't
semantics
want
than
to be
anything else.
dealing with both engineering and legal at the same time, then you got 1 or 3.
Okay.
I
I'm
don't-
happy with 3, but I will listen to,
Motion to extend for 3 years.
Second.
Which one?
The
Legal.
legal.
Okay, thank you.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll just take a moment too, when you talk about hires and our hire, having a master electrician, this generator maintenance contract we have with Superior yearly for $22.50, where they come out quarterly, we'll be able to do that maintenance in-house. And we could use that $22.50 to buy new tires for the trailers, and also on the utility side, they're going to the different lift station panels and putting in connections for generators, so they don't have to be wired. So again, in inclement weather or problem, you go right up, hook it up, and panel's ready for
For
the
standby
generator.
power.
Yep, just bring it right in. So we're getting efficiencies on the maintenance contract and getting more efficient with hooking those generators up. And also Kenny's staff is taking them out in the field with them now, whether they're needed or not, and hooking them up to practice that hookup and then letting them run.
Those cables are a beast to screw around with.
Well, they are, especially in a storm, you don't have the right connections, but you put a maritime housing or a quick connect in there, you just go in and plug it in.
Much easier,
And you
much
should,
safer.
you should run a couple contests, whoever has the fastest hookup time with 0 defects. Put them with their name on a plaque or give them a free lunch or something.
Electrical NASCAR.
Hey, that was the difference on Sunday.
I just had a couple questions, and that is, are we gonna stay with GoDaddy? Or was that-
Diane just renewed it.
Okay.
She just did it, I believe, yesterday.
And the natural gas contract with Tico, I assume we're
I
gonna,
would assume that was, we're gonna
Renew
continue
that.
that.
okay, that was all I had. Anybody else? Kathy?
And that website too, it's been down almost the entire day. And I believe we just renewed with Stick Boy a few months ago, if I recall. And we've been having a lot of trouble with that
With the website?
past few months.
Do we
But
know in our contract if we have any clause in there about downtime?
I would have to go through and look. Now,
I would
do
go
know
back and look. If
part
we
of the
don't,
service-
that's shame on us.
Right,
We
part
should
of
have
the s-
clauses in there.
And part of the service
Yeah.
agreement, I mean, they're not charging us right now hourly, it's included in the service agreement, so. But it's just been, I believe at one point today, they couldn't even get to our homepage to get a payment for it. It's just come out of nowhere.
Mrs. Flaherty?
About the financial services, are we doing that contract for 1 year? The
Yes.
only motion to extend legal. is
Yeah,
the-
that one's gonna.
Well, it's a
come-
60-day extension, this will be approved.
So that one, when
So
that
we
comes.
can work on the
Yeah.
contract.
And then I do have, about the Anchor Tree and Mainscape, is there contracts?
But those are 3 years rolling.
So we don't, okay, because they're highlighted.
Yeah,
And
that's just showing the ending of the first year. Anything else?
That was it.
Okay.
you talked about the gas.
Okay, so that's the, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda item 4A?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second for consent agenda item 4A. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that leads us to public hearing, which cannot start till 5:30, so we've got an hour and 15 minutes.
To kill.
So,
Madam Chair, if I could take 5 minutes of that, hour and 15
I
minutes?
don't know.
3 minutes?
I got 24 here.
Yes.
Just briefly, just these are just more updates, I figured if we have the time now. Remember, if you recall, we had the
Yeah, I
ADA
thought-
website access lawsuit, and Michael's been working with the vendor on that. The article in the Wall Street Journal, and just to pass out, just, remember we talked about the fact that this is not the end of it, it's probably the beginning of it. Article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, Mike and I re-exchanged it, about the lawsuits surge over websites access to the line. Just
This
to-
was on the news.
Yeah,
last
just to let you
night.
know, and the lady that filed the lawsuit against 4 districts I represent, that were all resolved, as of the 19th of February, has filed 211 lawsuits in the Southern District of Florida alone. So that's just, again, Mike works real well with the vendor, and the vendor seems to be responsive, but it's just one of those things that Congress or the Justice Department, somebody needs to help fix this. And
I thought it
hopefully-
was interesting, because I read that article the other morning, I saw it in the paper, and I actually read through it, and they never even really mentioned governments as a part of the lawsuit. It was all kind of for-profit,
The large corporation.
private companies, and
Yeah.
it said they're all in New York and Florida.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, and so it's, hopefully some of the high-powered lobbyists or some of the high-powered corporations will at least get some standards and guidelines in, as opposed to relying upon the private sector to come up with wags, and then there's a floating kind of issue. But that just was, I saw that, and Michael and I exchanged emails.
And that's gonna require congressional action, lots of them.
And or yes, yeah, I know, and or Justice
Not gonna
Department,
happen.
I understand, and or Justice Department guidelines, but, the other thing is, one thing you'll be seeing in the next board agenda, I think we've heard it all, the cats, hopefully. The Carina Property Owners Association, the Pelican Preserve Community Association, WCILNR, and the district to form the partial easement for Carina Phase 2, use part of that back 10 feet along 27 lots to access the flowway for maintenance. Everybody's agreed on the document. And so I'll be bringing that to the next board meeting, and also bringing a proposed stipulation of dismissal of the administrative hearing on that. So hopefully we'll put it into that one.
That'd be nice.
One more mark off. Did I go over by 3 minutes?
I don't know, I didn't.
Okay, thank you.
So in an effort to save time later, why don't we go ahead and do supervisor comments?
So we have a find out recess first.
Sure. We're all gonna have to be here and stay here anyway. Recess for 5
Who
minutes.
budgeted the time? For this meeting?
Yeah.